County Community Library, and today we're going to be making this simple fall wreath with items from Dollar Tree. So we're going to start with a foam wreath from Dollar Tree. This is 9.28 inches or 24 centimeters because it's made by a Canadian company and they measure in metric, but any size foam wreath would work with this. We're going to use some brown paper. You can buy this craft paper from Dollar Tree, which is 30 inches wide by 15 feet long. You could make 10 or 12 wreaths with this amount of paper. Or you could use a paper bag. So I cut open the paper bag flat, and then I measured 2-inch wide strips, which I've cut out. And you'll probably need about 4 if you're using the paper bag. If you're using the craft paper, you might want to cut about 6 strips because it's not as wide. We're also using some fall decorations from Dollar Tree. You can get 2 scarecrows for $1, 4 of these big pumpkins for $1, and a package of 50 of these leaves for $1. We're also using some steel straight pins with a flat head. You don't want to use the pins with a round plastic head because we don't want these to show. And also a piece of jute about 14 inches long, and that's just going to be the hanger. Okay, so I'm going to start out by crinkling up my paper. I want to give my wreath some texture, my paper some texture, but if you want a smooth look, you can skip this step. I think these are always more interesting with the texture. Now, if you're using the paper bag, you want to make sure the printed side is down when you start wrapping your wreath. So I'm putting the printed side down, and you always want to end and stop your paper strips on the same side. So I'm making this the back of my wreath. I'm going to take a pin and at a slight angle, I'm pinning the pin into the back of my wreath. So I'm going to stop and start every time on that part of the wreath, on the bottom part. So I'm just wrapping it around the wreath, just slightly overlapping it so the green doesn't show through. And when I get to the end here, I'm going to start another strip. I'm just going to put a pin in. So I'm on the back where I started my strip. So I'm going to get a new strip here. And I'm using the same pin to start my new strip. So I'm just putting my pin in the old one and starting the new one. And then I'm going to wrap the whole strip, and when we come back, I'll show you how to add the decorations. Okay, I've got my wreath completely covered with my brown paper strips. All my pins are on the back side so they can't be seen. Now I'm going to add my scarecrow. Now the scarecrow came with a longer stick than this, and I broke it off a little shorter. And what I'm going to do is slide him right under one of the rows of paper. Now, if it's a little tight, you can always take your pin and loosen it up a little bit. So I've got him all set to go. The next thing I think I'll do is add my pumpkin, which I also broke the stick off of this pumpkin, but I've learned from experience that this stick is too thin to stick through the paper and the styrofoam. So I'm going to use a tool called an awl, and if you don't have one of these pointy tools, I'm going to make a small hole to start my stick with. You could use the end of a pin or anything sharp or small screwdriver to make a hole. So I think I'm going to put my pumpkin right about here. I'm taking my awl. I'm just making a small starter hole because my stick's not very big. I don't want to make a big hole that's going to be loose. So then it slides right in there. Some other tools that you might find useful that I want to tell you about before we finish here are wire cutters. If you're a big crafter, you want to have these tools in your toolbox. Well, those are my needle nose pliers, but they also cut wire, or just wire cutters, which I'll show you how I'm going to use those later. But the needle nose pliers and the wire cutters are really useful tools. Okay, my other things I have to put on here are these leaves, and I'm just going to put them on with a straight pin. But I don't want my straight pins to show, so I'm going to kind of... Now, some of these leaves are a burlap, which I really like because we're really creating a rustic looking wreath. So I'm kind of hiding my pins underneath the scarecrow, and then I'm going to pick another one and I'm going to put it underneath the first leaf, kind of facing a different direction, and I'm going to hide my straight pin there underneath that one, and then maybe a yellow one. I'm going down the wreath here, turning them different directions, just making a little circle down my wreath or half circle down my wreath. One more to put on. And then we've got the hanger to go. So there we go with our pumpkin, our scarecrow, and our leaves. We've got our piece of jute, which I'm going to wrap around the top of our wreath here. And I like to use an overhand knot, which is putting the two ends together, making a loop and sticking the ends through. That's always a good secure way. So there we are. But I do want to show you some other options. Since we didn't glue anything on this wreath, we could take all these pieces off and we could add some Christmas things, which I just bought this at Dollar Tree. And I want to show you our wire cutters we could use to cut some of these things off here if we want to. If I want to put an apple where the pumpkin was, I could just take the pumpkin out, put in an apple. You could also buy burlap by the roll and wrap your wreath with burlap, or you could get some fall ribbon, or if you want to change it to Christmas, you could use some Christmas ribbon. So I hope you enjoyed this simple fall wreath, and we'll see you next time.